So welcome everybody. This is our Asian Supervisors Network meeting. We meet the last Wednesday of the month in Asia, the last Tuesday night in the Americas. And we have people from all over the world here, so welcome. You want to say hi, your name and where you are calling from, because one of our goals is to build community and keep coming and keep building the relationships. So let's go around and let's hear from everybody. What your name and where you're coming from, where you're calling from.
I'm Andrew from Tokyo. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Michel from Paris. So, Andrew, your turn.
Andrew, you wanna repeat?
Oh, yes, Andrew from Tokyo.
Gerardo from Uruguay.
Sunny from Los Angeles.
Sinju from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Sorry, Frederick.
Sorry, go ahead.
Frederic from Canberra, Australia, with a French accent. For Michel.
Elizabeth from Tokyo, but currently in Ho Chi Minh.
Yoko from Tokyo.
And Joyce from Shanghai.
But you don't live in Shanghai, do you, Joyce? Yes, you do. Yes. You're in Shanghai, correct? You live there. Yes.
Yeah, I'm in Shanghai.
So it's in Tokyo is the winner today.
Yeah.
That's great. And second, Sunny, I think we are from Los Angeles. You know, Sunny is my neighbor. Okay, welcome everyone. Today we are going to be exploring the role of supervisors working with coaches around post-COVID leadership. Now, post-COVID is relative because people keep getting COVID. So it's not really post-COVID completely. We still are in COVID era. I don't think that the World Health Organization already has determined that the COVID pandemic is completely over. I don't think. I think it's coming up soon. But in some part of the world, people keep contracting COVID. Here in Los Angeles, I heard a lot of cases lately of different people. It's very light. It's not like it was before. People are not dying from COVID, but it's not completely gone. And you still see people with masks. I don't know, in different parts of the world is different. I don't know how it's in Uruguay or in France, in Tokyo, but here in Los Angeles, sometimes you still see people in stores with protection. But the idea is that the world is not the same, isn't it? The world is not the same. And it requires for leaders to adjust and for coaches to adjust their coaching and for supervisors to adjust the supervision to the coaches that coach these leaders. So we all need to adjust in different ways. So the goal today is it's not a lecture, it's just a dialogue, a reflection together. Today, I want to share with you something that I wrote a book in Spanish. So Gerardo, I think you're the only one here who will be able to just read it. Anybody else is bilingual here? I don't think so. Yeah, Frederic, so do you understand some Spanish too? Well, you're bilingual, French, English, and do you understand some Spanish too? You're on mute.
I said no he hablado por muchos años.
Okay, but you may be able to read it. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've bought it. I've got it here in Spanish, but I've not read for Spanish for 50 years.
Oh, that's a while. So listen, I just sent today to the publisher a book that I wrote. It's called the coach leader in the post-pandemic age. So originally, I have wrote a book about coaching skills for leaders to use as a manual for my trainings. So part of my work is to work with leaders worldwide to train them with coaching skills. And I have done that worldwide. I have done even that in Tokyo once. In Uruguay, Gerardo helped me, remember when I went to the program for coaching skills for leaders that you brought me. And then also in Singapore, in many parts of the world, I have been doing these programs to train leaders on coaching skills. So I came up with a manual, and then COVID hit, and then I thought, okay, I need to do something about it. So then I started researching about how leaders were adapting and what they were having to pay attention. So now the book is going to be published. and I'm going to translate it. It's a manual with exercises, and then I interview 15 leaders, clients that I have been working with, for them to share their experience as leaders adapting to the pandemic. So with that, I want to share with you some of these ideas today, and see what you have seen in your experience as coaches working with leaders, in your experience as supervisors, supervising coaches who are working with the leaders. So that's our goal today. So let me share with you some slides that I prepared for you. So let's see, just a second. That shouldn't be here. That's not it. Let's see. Okay. That's strange. Something when I put together the first page didn't come out. Okay. So let's start here. Can you see the slide? Okay. Can you see me inside?
Yeah, you're
Yes.
moving around
Yes.
interestingly. Yeah, it's a great
Oh.
feature, by the way.
Okay. Okay, so the idea is that COVID-19 affected all of us, and it affected us in different ways. Personally, I don't know how many of you had COVID. I had COVID. Anybody else here? You know, like I was, and I did it at the beginning. So that was pretty scary. Like I was not very sick, but still I was very scared because we didn't have any answers. And he didn't get any medication, didn't get anything. So it was scary. But something that changed, for example, for me is that after working, I used to travel worldwide. I work in more than 60 countries. And since after I started doing everything in virtually, I don't want to travel any longer. I say no to all of the jobs that I am getting with invitations to work worldwide. I say no. Even conferences. I used to go 3-4 conferences per year. And this year I said only one. Which one I'm going to go to Orlando, the ICF conference, and that's it. No more conferences. In the past, I would have gone to EMCC. I was invited to another 2-3 conferences, ACTO, many other possibilities. That no, for me, not anymore. I wonder for you, what changed for you as a practitioner, as a coach, as a supervisor? What changed for you after COVID? It's one of the questions that I would like to investigate today. So I want you to take notes. I want you to take something to write, and I want you to write down, and then we'll go to small group discussions. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then I want to invite you to answer these questions in your small groups. So the first question is, how has COVID affected you and your clients? You have to think right now in terms other than health-wise, like I shared with you, in terms of your work and your work practices. What do you think have been the main ways that COVID has affected you? And particularly, how is different your coaching and in your practice, in your supervision practice? What would you say is different? If you have other jobs too, you facilitate, like I was telling you before, I used to facilitate, train in person. Now I don't want to, being honest with you, I don't want to even travel inside the city. Like I am teaching a class in my city in Los Angeles, and I didn't want to even get into my car and travel 1 hour for the class if I don't have to. So I was able to negotiate, and I had in there the first class, the middle class, and the end class. And then the rest is virtual, and the benefit was that we can have some people coming that are from outside the town that can participate. But in the past, that was a program in person that I was doing at the University of Southern California, teaching coaching skills for 10 years. So the idea is the COVID is still affecting us in different ways. And there is like kind of a new normal, and that requires new approaches. So what come up for you in terms of approaches? What would you say you are doing differently? How are you adapting? and what is required for the leaders that we're working with. So not only moving now from now to the leaders we're working with, what do they need to do differently? What have you seen that they had to do differently to be able to be effective? Okay, so some of the questions that I would like to start reflecting together. So let's go to 3 breakout rooms. And let's share some of your reflections. What came up for you when I asked you these questions? Okay, and then I will ask one volunteer for each triad to share with everybody else. So let's do this for, let's say, 10 minutes. I think it's enough. And I will look forward to hear from you in 10 minutes. So welcome back. Let's have a conversation around this. In the room number 1 were Gerardo, Andrew, and Joyce. Who would like to share?
I could share a couple points, and maybe someone may chime in with an additional point. But the overarching theme, I think, that has emerged in our conversation was the whole idea of opportunity. That's how I'm processing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there were many challenges. At the same time, we discovered new ways to interact with our clients. And the online, while initially challenging on many levels, because people were not accustomed to it, very quickly adapted and actually come around to actually preferring the online interactions that the situation made necessary. And through that, I think we've developed the ability to adapt, but also to schedule more sessions and more interactions during the day, which in itself is great, but it also brings the challenge of overscheduling and overworking, and the need for self-care comes out. Self-care meaning, when do we actually need a break and step away from the work or the extra work, at least in my case, that is going into my schedule? And self-care meaning taking blocks of time where I'm fully focused, we are fully focused on recovering from the work and the interactions, the sheer volume of it, to ensure that the quality of the interactions in the work that we are doing is or at the standard that we expect it to be. Anything else that I may be missing there, Joyce or Gerald?
I think you covered it all.
I covered most of it, not all of it, but
Well, I just want to add the comment. It's my feeling that the biggest coaching experience the world had was pandemia, and people were have to live an experience that was a big coaching experience. So when they went out of it, we had to do a different effort or more effort or something different to show in a profound way the work of coaching. I don't know if I'm being understood, but it was a big change. So coaching changed, we change, and when it was not so easy to make the difference. It's an idea, no?
Yeah, and I think that related to that, I have seen the two extremes. Like, I know colleagues of mine who didn't have any work who said, Damian, please, if you know anything, let me know, because of the pandemic, some industries were shut down.
Yeah.
But others got a lot of work because of healthcare, and in other areas, people really needed coaches to help them, to support them in doing the challenges that they are having. So it's interesting that it was not the same, the same effect for everyone. It was different. differently distributed. This is something of this thing that I saw. Sunny, Sinjo, and Joko, who would like to share?
Okay, I will try, but I'm really bad about integrating things. So please help, Sunny and what I was inspired in our session, the talking, is they actually the leaders required the new style of leadership, which is for rebuilding teamwork, or before the COVID, they really don't necessarily need to enhance leadership in some organization, like in non-profit organization or the very flat organization. But after the COVID, some leader has to be the leader to rebuild or reproduce the organization which fit to the new normal. So this is my opinion, but the leader needs to get another new card to be make effect to the new team, new organization after the COVID.
I have
This is not a summary from our discussion, but just
that's a good point.
Yeah.
I have a colleague, Sunny, you met my friend Jonathan Tropper. He's a professor at the university where I went and got my PhD, and I was asking him about what he was teaching. And he said that something, the most similar he had found because of COVID is crisis leadership, is how to learn how to deal in crisis mode. And the other thing is agile coaching and agile leadership. And people are talking about that, and that's two areas that require maybe more studying. That I am interested in also keep researching.
It requires a lot of resiliency. And what people are finding is that there is change fatigue because things keep changing and changing and changing. It changed for COVID, it changed after COVID, and people are tired of the changes. So that adjustment, leaders have to really help people, adjust. The other thing that I think Yoko was mentioning was about this remote work and how leaders have to adjust to people not wanting to come in person to the office or to come in person to do work, and how to manage that.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
to
just
be
to
able
add
to
on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add on, like structure, because people now appreciate the new norms to some extent because there's work-life integration. So, and recognizing that then leadership, some companies actually organize such that, certain days you work from home, certain days you agree to come into work and come in as a team. So you combine this collaborative spirit, you bring back the collaborative spirit and say, okay, this Monday and Thursday, for example, we'll all come back into work, and then other days we'll work from home. It's no less effective. So the new norm has brought in a different mindset, and therefore you can have conversations on work-life integration and all that, which is good. And also, so I think, and the other thing is that for even as us coaches and supervisors, then compassion, empathy, it actually becomes more important. A client can call in and say, I'm not well. So you just have to be very adaptive and agile and extend all the love you can, and as much as you love to the others. And therefore, it's a much more sense of community also. It's like when you wear a mask, you're also looking out for others, not only just you. So in countries like Malaysia, we continue to wear a mask to not only protect ourselves, but to protect others. And I think that sense of community is actually very beautiful.
Yeah, it's interesting that this is an area of emotional intelligence, and the emotional intelligence is an important piece in the leadership, like always has been important, but now it's even more important.
Even more important.
And what people are not talking a lot, and I do believe, and I have seen in my family, are issues around mental health. how this had affected mental health. Like, for example, for the elderly, the being lonely and not being able to see their grandkids, and this affects a lot of people, like in different ways. Younger people, the level of suicidality now is very high. In part also because of loneliness, in part also because of all of the stress related to social media. This is another one, is technology, the use of technology for good and bad. And then you see it in kids, like I saw it in my niece. She went back to kindergarten, and at home she was the queen, and then suddenly she had to share with everybody else, and she thought that she could still do whatever she wanted, like at home. And she was really having challenges in adjusting to kindergarten because she stopped being the queen of the house to be one more of the kids in the kindergarten. So
Yeah.
it affected more than what we think.
Yeah.
Like in all of the different areas and aspects. And it's important that we can articulately talk about it and normalize it. So people realize that when they're going through some of this experience, there are many more people going through that than what we know. What I have heard, for example, in Los Angeles County, the Department of Mental Health, that I have been doing work for them in the past, they have sent reports about how increase of people dealing with anxiety, depression, levels of suicidality, particularly in youth. So it's really concerning. And in this world, we need to build more emotional intelligence muscle to deal with all of that and to support people to do that. Now, in the last group, there were Elizabeth, Frederick, and Michelle. Anything else we have not said yet? You want to add?
I think they talked about the isolations that a lot of people have been feeling, and the need to connect differently, which is a talk. The one thing that I'm wondering, that has not been spoken here, because I used to work in medical practice, so obviously now I'm working on Zoom. It's changed completely. But I was not so, and that would be, Suni will probably bring more on that, but I had not heard so much talk about diversity before. And I wonder it's because people now are working more remotely, and the nature, like my client nature, has completely changed. If people now have opportunity to work in different continents, is that now is becoming so much more relevant. I mean, it's always been relevant, but people were not aware of that. Even coaching people that are coaching in humanitarian situation, and they're only now starting to realize and bring this conversation in the coaching supervision or with their clients. So I'm just wondering, Suni, was it a conversation that came up more since COVID, or was that conversation there? And I was like a horse with a
I think that it's true, Frederick. I think you're right. I think it's that. It's also the impact. And I was saying in my group, I just submitted a proposal to the county here in Los Angeles to add coaching to their management and technical assistance for nonprofit organizations, because COVID hit marginalized and small communities a lot harder than even you would imagine. Some of them, whether it's businesses and families who had family businesses, or people who were vendors, even on the street, they just had to stop. They had no income. And that has hit communities. It has sort of filtered out and hit people very, very hard. And a lot of the individuals or organizations that supported marginalized communities were just, they had nothing. And now philanthropy is trying to help them, and they're giving technical assistance, but I am proposing to combine that with coaching of the leaders and executives, because we, large companies can do that. And I have clients who are, senior vice presidents and general counsel, and they need the coaching. Even Frederic, what you're talking about, when George Floyd was murdered, all of a sudden companies either promoted or brought in women and people of color who never were in these positions before, and they are really isolated. They don't feel included, and they need support because it's the first time they've been in an environment like that. And it's not that they are not capable or bright enough to do the job, but they also represent something to those communities, whether they're indigenous or other, that you can, excel and you can do this, but it's a lot of pressure. And I have clients that I'm coaching on a daily basis who I don't think they would make it. They just didn't have someone to talk to, really, because they can't talk to colleagues. They can't talk to a CEO or someone above them. And they certainly can't talk to subordinates about the issues that they're dealing with. So it's coming from a lot of different directions. And I still think that in the smaller and marginalized communities, the leaders there need support, and they need, training, and they need these things that generally even philanthropy does not recognize. They recognize budgeting, they recognize, board development and things like that, but they don't recognize the support for the actual leaders.
Thank you, Sunny. What I want to do is share with you some of the points that I make in the book. Interestingly, the book is that I developed around ICF core competencies. So basically what it is for leaders to be coaches, what they need to do is to be ethical. They have a chapter on ethics, like my book in English on core competencies. And ethical practices for leaders. Then I have a chapter on contracting, how they agree and develop relationships. Building trust, being present, active listening, creating awareness, all of that. So each chapter is, each competence is a chapter, but then I have some that are specific, and then I give examples specific around. That was the right presentation before. I think I went to the wrong presentation. Okay. So let me share with you a few slides before we finish. So we talk about how COVID-19 affected you and your clients, how affected your practice as coaching and supervisors, what is the new normal and what requires from us. And then we talk about the leader, what required from the leaders in this post-COVID era. So here, I want to share a few ideas that may be helpful for you. One idea is a model that I work with leaders that are clients of mine in coaching, and I share that one strategy is first to detect, to pay attention to. I study foresight, a study of the future, and part of foresight and the study of the future is to be able to prevent what may come, be ready and be prepared for future trends. So basically, first we need to be detecting, we need to be paying attention. What are the changes in the horizon? What are the signs? What are the threats? What are the opportunities? Pay attention to that so that we can respond. And we can respond by uncovering what are the implications of this change, and we can do some planning. But that requires attention. It's like we were talking before about paying attention to diversity. Frederic, you were talking about how now we are all more aware and we're all paying more attention to issues around diversity. Well, the same thing is about foresight. It's about the future, how we can prepare. And then how we evolve. So we need to be evolving all the time. It is what Sunny, you're talking about changing. We need to change all the time. We're fatigue of changing, but this is what we need to do. We need to evolve to thrive. Because if we don't thrive, if we are not resilient, we talked about resilience before, we cannot embrace the reality that we're facing. So here is a key idea of detecting, responding, and evolving. And these are key competencies for leaders. The key competencies to deal with all of these trends is first, we talk about resilience. This is a big one, being able to adapt to different experiences, transforming threats into opportunities. Andrew, you talk about opportunities when you started sharing. Patience, how we deal with patience, how we are open to taking time things when we don't have answers. Flexibility, how flexible we are. Interestingly, most leaders think they are more flexible than what they really are. And even you here, you as coaches, consultants, trainers, different roles, I believe that I am very flexible. But I don't know, if we ask my partner, he may not agree. You know, it's like sometimes we believe we are more flexible than we really are. And then emotional intelligence, we talk about that. And then social and cultural intelligence, ability to build relationships and work with other people. So these are 5 of the key skills and competencies. That's based on research and based on my own experience, both. And there is a book, and here Gerardo from Uruguay is in Spanish, unfortunately. It's called The Mundo Post-COVID, that I'm using to write my book and as a resource. And what he's talking about in the leadership, he said that leader needs to be like psychologists to some extent. In what Cynthia, you were talking before about being empathetic, being very empathic, and being able to promote mental health at work, because people are dealing with a lot of issues of mental health. We need to refer people to mental health when it's appropriate, but also we need to be listening and very, very empathic what people are bringing to support them dealing with emotional issues and show closeness and support. And if leaders are not being able to do that, people are going to get disengaged. So this is key for engagement. And then the idea is that the skills that also needs to be paying attention leaders, that they need to demonstrate is being clear and inspirational vision. This has always been that way, but particularly under crisis and crisis management, clarity of vision is key, because this is what brings people together towards one place. So when there is crisis and people feel confused and threatened, having clarity about where they are going help them to deal with that. The other is being willing to transform, learn, and continually improve. So being all the time in developing, learning, growing, and that's also related to resilience. And here again, being flexible and adapt to the different challenges. So you have heard about VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So I like to bring that because now there are new acronyms. Every day you hear new acronyms, but this is one of the most well-known and easy to remember. And many times working with coaches or working with leaders, supporting leaders to normalize their experiences and understand that our world is volatile, that is changing all the time, that we may be experiencing this fatigue, that change fatigue that Sunny was talking, and normalizing the experience. And by that, being able to say, okay, how are you going to be dealing with all of the changes? We are going to keep experiencing that. And what do you need to do to take care of yourself around that? What support do you need? That's another one. To deal with volatility, we need support. What support we need? The other is uncertainty. We don't know what will happen. The future is an interrogation, and that uncertainty creates anxiety and fear. So what are different scenarios? One way of working in foresight and in leadership is looking at different possible scenarios and say, okay, what are all of the possibilities? And that sometimes creates some, not certainty, but at least ideas of possible ways to deal with things. Complexity. Sometimes the messages that we receive are contradictory. So how effective we are at dealing with paradox? Some of us, we don't like contradictory ideas. So part of the complexity is being able to enhance and to understand paradoxes, embrace paradoxes, and move forward with them. And help leaders to do that. And this ambiguity, this sometimes not having the whole picture, having pieces of picture or contradictory pictures. So how do we deal with that? Now, one of the key elements of the pandemic is stress, tension for all of that. And there are high level of stress and mental health challenges. So how, as coaches, support leaders to keep doing their work? So coaches may have a key role in supporting emotionally to the leaders, but then the supervisors need to support the coaches. And that is where sometimes supervisors may or may not spend enough time in the resourcefulness part of the work, where we really pay attention not only to challenges, but also what's happening emotionally to the coach and how the coach can take care of themselves. And sometimes coaches and supervisors, we may not be good at putting boundaries. So this whole issue of boundaries, like setting boundaries, saying no, saying what time we finish working at night, different things that may be different issues for us, working during the weekends. So how do we set up boundaries that can, and how supervisors can help coaches to set up boundaries, and how we as supervisors work with our own supervisors to do that. So one of the questions, and we need to start wrapping up, but if we'll have more time, we will go to breakout room now to go to the next level of questions, talking about the future and supporting clients and the organization to be future ready. I have been doing a lot of work. I'm thinking about being future fit and future ready. How do we do that? And how do we work on employees' health related to that? No? That's a key issue. Working with crisis management, paying attention to the physical and emotional health of employees. There is an article for Dinari that Dinari Atoll is a group, it's a research done on future trends and employee health, and talk about the need to understand how crisis may produce fear, anger, frustration, and sometimes resistance, having people with resistant behavior, resistant to change or resistant to ideas or collaboration. So some of the questions that I like to ask people to explore and think, and I want to invite you to think that as an assignment homework after this conference today, the session today, is what have you experienced as new trends in coaching and in supervision? And what signals of the future may impact your work? What do you see coming? For example, team coaching. Somebody talk about team coaching now. It's some of you know that I just my program, I got accreditation from ICF in team coaching, and I was very interested in doing that because that's a trend. Organizations and companies are realizing that they need to provide coaching to their teams, not only to their leaders. So there is an emphasis and an investment of companies and money in team versus individuals. So this is a puzzle where all of the different pieces, and I want to invite you to put these pieces in some order in your heads and in your work, and remember that we need to collaborate. Whatever we do, we cannot do alone. We need to collaborate with each other, and that's the invitation, how we can collaborate with each other to be even more effective. So with that in mind, and because it's very late in Los Angeles, sunny for us, we are going to go around the room, and I want to invite everybody to say something you want to say before we go. Any departing, checkout, comments, any observations, reactions, anything briefly in 1 or 2 sentences you want to share before we go, and we'll wrap up with that. What's in your mind? What are you present to? Any thoughts? Yes, Frederick.
I'm glad you reminded us of the boundaries for our own support too.
Yeah.
I would say, we've all experienced COVID, but every single person, everybody we coach, everybody supervise, the experience is different.
Great point. Yeah, we have to be careful not to generalizing. It's a great point.
I even have a question coming into my mind, is that with all those changes, should coaching school also start to change how they're training their coaches? That's something that's been a lot in my mind recently, the more I've been starting to do supervision.
Right, I agree. I do think so. For example, some of programs are starting to teach supervision, to provide supervision as part of the training, as a way to adapt. That's an example. Michelle, anything you want to say? Michelle, you're on mute. We cannot hear you. Oh, no, he can hear us.
You're on mute.
Can you hear us?
I was questioning myself about, are there gender differences in all what we just said? I mean, because now there are more and more women among leaders, and what is the difference for them?
Yeah.
Is that different? I have no idea, but I was questioning myself about that.
That's a good question. This is my personal perspective, but I think there will be more women leaders, the world will be a better place. I think.
Mhm.
Who wanna go next? Just anything you wanna say before we go? Yes, Andrew.
Yes, I notice among some of my clients, there's a more emphasis on finding joy in the interactions that we're having.
Mm.
Qualitative shift in what people expect from the experience they have with their coaches and supervisors. It's not just in the head space, it's in the heart space. And this is just as important or more important for many people now, especially with the lack of clarity and the layers of complexity that we all have to be able to manage and navigate.
I agree, Andrew, and I think that's where values come even before the vision. That we have to really explore what our values are, and if we can come together and
It is an
build that.
existential, there's an existentialism here that is in a sense of urgency more and more.
Mhm.
That's an important piece, Andrew, that we missed today. I have it in my notes and I didn't cover it. But this is a very important part.
Yeah, I also, that resonates for me because one of the key things is that during all this time, gratitude became a very key element in connecting to the heart, and in integration of both your personal world as well as your professional world. You know, you're recognizing you're human, and that's something that shift is quite a beautiful shift.
Indeed.
And I think it's what puts being overdoing, or
Yes.
it makes them more important.
Absolutely.
Gerardo, were you going to say something before?
Yes, that's just a comment of the relation between the COVID consequence and the vulnerability that we have adopted as being supervisors has changed the way of doing coaching. And the other thing is, the most important is collaboration, and maybe the need of survival in the coaching industry have developed some big competence and the wrong way of not being collaborating as the world needs us. No, it's a feeling. No, it's and the technology has make the appearance of hundreds of different offers and proposals and confusing offers of coaching. So 3 factors that I think that are affecting the industry also.
Thank you, Gerardo. Joyce, anything you want to say? Joyce just finished her supervision program. Congratulations, Joyce is a brand new
Thank you.
supervisor. One of the first supervisors in China. There's a couple of cohorts here.
Excellent.
Thank you. Well, I think this this conference is really helpful. That kind of gave me a reminder of the mental health at the workplace, and also the mental health to support, as a supervisor, to support our coaches. How effective our coaches can support their clients and their organization to be future ready. So yeah, this is a good reminder of that. Thank you.
Great to have you, Joyce, and I hope you keep joining us every month. So we have some Chinese representation here. It's great. And Joko, anything you want to say? Welcome. This is your first time, isn't it, or second time here?
Yeah, this is my first time.
Your first time. Welcome.
Yeah. It's been a while since I attended the supervision training last year. So it was just a very good time to remind me to think deeper as a supervisor, not a coach.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. We hope that you come back. Next month, we're going to be discussing the conference that we're having this weekend. So there is still time. If you are not coming, you want to come. And if money is an issue, we support you. We don't want anybody not to come because of money issues. So if you're not coming because of that, let me know, because we will be very happy to support you. And so the idea is that we will be discussing what's happening in the conference. Sunny, you are you keep coming to this meeting, so I hope that you can join us in a month and share. So you're going to be part of it. So you're going to be being a panel talking about diversity issues, talking about that, and so it would be great if you come back and we will discuss and do some exercises around the topic of the conference this weekend. So thanks everybody for coming today. It's always, remember, the last Wednesday of the month in the morning in Asia, and you will be receiving an invitation. Okay, thank you for coming and joining and participating. To see you soon. Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
Damian.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I mean, is it possible that you send me back the link for